for your patience, everyone. ואני בחסדך בטחתי, ותגל ליבי בישועתך. 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 אשיר לאדוני, אשיר לאדוני, אשיר לאדוני, כי גמל עלי. אשיר לאדוני, אשיר לאדוני, אשיר לאדוני, כי גמל עלי. אשיר לאדוני, כי גמל עלי. ואני בחסדך בטחתי, ותגל ליבי בישועתך. 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 אשיר לאדוני, אשיר לאדוני, אשיר לאדוני, כי גמל עלי. אשיר לאדוני, אשיר לאדוני, אשיר לאדוני, כי גמל עלי. אשיר לאדוני, כי גמל עלי. Ashira Ladonai Ki Gamal Alai. First, that is the final verse, actually, of Psalm 13, which forms the entirety of the song. I trust in your chesed, va'ani b'chasdecha batachti. Your grace and merciful loving kindness I trust in. I rejoice in your saving me, and so I sing to you, Adonai, for you have seen me through a life-threatening situation. That is the translation of this last verse of Psalm 13. The song expresses gratitude for our lives, for being alive, and tonight we sing these words adding a note of gratitude for our privilege and a note of gratitude for our breath, which flows uninhibited by the weight of another person's knee on our neck, or lungs plagued with an insidious virus. We'll be talking more about such privileges a bit later in our service, but first I would like to share the question of the week, my question of the week, which is the same as the question I asked last week. What is special about your Shabbat candlesticks? Did you inherit them from someone special, or purchase them on a meaningful trip? And I have two responses I'll read you tonight. One is from Olga Golan, who says, my candlesticks were originally my grandmother's, where she used them extensively in the 1800s in Russia. They traveled to Poland, through Czechoslovakia to Germany via boat, left Danzig to England with my mother. They remained in England for 20-odd years and came via another boat journey with my mother to Australia. First to Melbourne, then Tasmania, then Sydney, where they were used well into the early 20th century by her. She gave them to me when I was married, and I have used them every Friday night for the last 60 years. I've bequeathed them to my eldest daughter as she lives in Israel. They will travel again. My eldest granddaughter, her daughter, also lives in Israel. She has asked that they then pass on to her. Daniela Torsch also writes in my glass Swedish style candlestick holders were a gift from my non-Jewish cousin, also named Daniela, from Hamburg. I love them. Danny stayed with me for a few months in about 2002 as she wanted to improve her English. She's a primary school teacher. I loved having her stay, and she's interested in her Jewish background. Her grandmother was Mom's older sister and died at a concentration camp in 1944 after being arrested by the Gestapo in our house with her German Catholic husband and their 6-year-old son. I look a lot like my aunt. We are going to light the candles, these candlesticks behind me, tonight in memory of Philip Allen, or in honor of Peter Allen, who is remembering his father, Philip Allen, whose yahrzeit we observe this Shabbat, as well as in honor of Stephen Perry, who observes tonight the yahrzeit of his father, Mark. And I'll just mention also that today is the 96th birthday of Peter Allen's mother-in-law, Pauline Shaw. So we want to light these candles in honor of her as well. Ad mea v'esrim, may you live to 120, and to Peter and Stephen, we wish you long life. And we light these candles in all your honor this evening. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boechem leShalom, Malachei HaShalom. Boechem Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni leShalom, Malachei HaShalom. Baruchuni leShalom, Malachei Elyon. Baruch Hu. Tzedchem leShalom, Malachei HaShalom. Tzedchem leShalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu. COVID era, under lockdown, things tend to fall out of sequence a bit as our usual routines have been disrupted. So we've made an effort to keep things in some semblance of order through our offerings. A Friday night service each week at the same time, the Kaddish call that follows, and then we post the Shabbat morning video, and later that night have Havdalah. Ritual, or Seder in Hebrew, is doing things in order because order brings comfort to the spirit. To do things out of order, however, that is to say, to disorder things or to point to the world's disorder, can motivate us to find a new order, new and better understandings of what's possible in life and in society. So occasionally we do need to mix things up and disturb our own peace. And that's a little bit what we're going to do tonight, for the sake of honoring those throughout history whose lives were disordered by societal practices and policies. Those who only got to know their parents long after their birth. This is out of order. Those who didn't get to be themselves until they'd already forgotten who they were. Those for whom an apology doesn't put things right away. Tonight we are mixing up the order of things in the hopes of motivating us toward a better understanding of what's possible in our world. So I'll be sharing my sermon here at the start of our service rather than later in its usual spot, in the hopes that we might all hear the rest of the service differently, that we might hear the words of our prayers in a new and different light and be moved differently by them. So my drash tonight begins with an Aboriginal poem by Frank Doolan. Black woman, my mother the earth, soul of my substance, the rich black dirt, colored blood red, a black man's blood, absorbed for eternity by your endless love. You gave birth to me just yesterday. What makes you think I drifted away? You sheltered my soul from the genocide. What I feel for you is absolute pride. I'm young and I'm vital. I'm black and I'm free. If I hurt you, I'm sorry. I'm just being me. Times they're a-changing and people change too. They don't mean I changed how I feel for you. 'Cause you are forever my mother the earth, the soul of my substance, the rich black dirt. Colored blood red, a black man's blood, absorbed for eternity by your endless love. The image of the ground swallowing a person's blood raises two images for me from the Torah. One is of the ground that swallowed the rebel, Korach, who protested against Moses and Aaron in his fight for a greater democracy. We'll be reading this parasha in a few weeks' time. The other Torah reference is Abel's blood, crying out from the ground after he was killed by his own brother Cain. This parasha in the Torah we read months ago. But the blood absorbed by the earth in the Aboriginal poem is specifically a black man's blood. So unfortunately, it also brings up, for me, a more contemporary image, that of a black man pinned to the ground by a white man's knee on the back of his neck that ultimately suffocated him to death. The image of George Floyd, whose death this week many have seen live, if one can say that, of watching a man die slowly. Yes, this is an American image that occurred on American soil, but we all share the same earth that the Aboriginal poet speaks of as his embracing mother. There are too many images of Mother Earth embracing a son who dies at the hands of his own brother, a son whose skin color matches hers, be it the rich black Australian dirt of the poem or the black tarmac of the street pavement in Minneapolis. There are too many images throughout history of brothers killing brothers, of racist brutality, of what our tradition calls sinat chinam, hate without cause. But before there was ever a stolen generation, and before there was ever a slave trade, the very first killing of a brother by his brother began with Cain and Abel. And this was in the very first parashah. In the eyes of our tradition, this fratricide occurs at the very beginning of time, the very first parashah. This appears to be an eternal problem in the human experience. So I've been thinking so much this week about what eternal means and about a story, the story of King Solomon's ring. The wise King Solomon sends his servant out to find him a magical gift, this special ring, a special ring that has the power to make a sad person happy and a happy person sad. So the servant goes out, and he has a lot of trouble finding such a ring. But eventually he comes back with one. And the magic ring he brings to Solomon isn't really magic. It just bears an inscription. The inscription says in Hebrew, Gam ze ya'avor. This too shall pass. This is the ring that reminds a sad person to be happy because this too shall pass. This is the ring that reminds a happy person to be sad because one's bounty can be fleeting too. So don't get too excited. This too shall pass. There's supposed to be comfort in this idea of Gam ze ya'avor. But when I think about institutionalized racism endured by the black community in America, so many of whom were deprived of the opportunity to buy houses in certain neighborhoods, for instance, so they didn't accumulate wealth to pass on to their children and raise their families in poverty. And when I think about the generational trauma endured by the stolen generation of Australia, many of whom would have lost both their parents and their children, when I think of Holocaust survivors whose trauma is found to pass down to their children biologically somehow, I have to ask myself, does everything really pass? Because it seems that discrimination actually endures and just takes different forms in different generations. And trauma actually endures and impacts every generation differently. And poverty, it actually endures and manifests differently in different generations. These things, they don't pass and disappear. They pass on to the next generation. Gam ze ya'avor? I'm not so sure. Since Cain and Abel, brothers have been killing brothers, and this problem is starting to feel eternal. The story of Cain and Abel, however, does not take place until the 4th chapter of Genesis. I thought about that this morning. In fact, the 7 days of creation happened before Cain and Abel are born, since their parents, Adam and Eve, aren't created until the 6th day. So there is, in the eyes of our tradition, much that is older than fratricide. In fact, the Mishnah teaches that in addition to the things God created during the first 6 days, God created another 10 things before the 7th day, before Shabbat, before the first Shabbat. And one of those 10 things was the ground that swallowed the rebel Korach. That is, one of God's creations was that merciful Mother Earth who embraces the blood of her children, whom humanity rejects, whom humanity can't seem to treat with mercy or decency or dignity. There is something older than Cain killing his brother Abel, something more eternal because it is a godly construct created by God when God was in charge of deciding what needed to be on the planet. A merciful earth was put in place for eternity. A merciful earth that accepts the blood of every human being without regard to the color of one's skin or society's definition of race, because, as the Talmud teaches, no one's blood is any redder than anyone else's. Fratricide, domination of one race over another, brutality and inequality, these are human creations that started only later, after Shabbat, the day of completion of God's universe, We must never accept them as eternal. We must always seek to abolish them. Statues can be toppled, apologies offered, constitutions even changed, and restitutions even made, all of which may not heal past wounds, but can reverse a deadly, tragic order that we've taken as a given, if we've noticed at all. Gamze ya'avor. This too shall pass. But as a human construct, humanity will have to dream up how to make deadly human constructs a thing of the past. Many of the Aboriginal poems I explored this past week speak of the power of dreaming. We need to dream a safer world into being, a more just world, and that means listening to each other's dreams, hearing them, and not suffocating them to death. So I'd like to close with another Aboriginal poem called A Right to be Heard. A right to be heard, not censored of word, a voice that is true, not a momentary view, a word that is said, it remains in our heads, of value that's true in both me and you. It signals the start from deep in our hearts. A sentence recalls from the big to the small. It flows like a stream. I have a dream. Asher lo hayam vehu asahu. Asher lo hayam vehu asahu. V'yabeshet yadav yatzaru. V'yabeshet yadav yatzaru. Asher lo hayam vehu asahu. Asher lo hayam vehu asahu. V'yabeshet yadav yatzaru. V'yabeshet yadav yatzaru. Come, let us sing joyfully to God, raise a shout for our rock and deliverer. Let us come into God's presence with praise. Let us raise a shout for God in song. Sing to God a new song. Sing to God, all the earth. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach she'arim, uvitvuna mishane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono. Borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Uma'avir yom u'mevi layla, uma'avdil ben yom u'ven layla, Adonai tzavaot shemo. El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev amo Yisrael, Ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod, Malchuto, Leolam, Leolam Vaed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha, u'v'chol me'odecha, v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele, asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha, v'shinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha b'veitecha, uvlechtecha v'aderech, uv'shachbecha uv'kumecha, ukshartam leot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot beineinecha, uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha, uvisharecha. Leman tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'item kedoshim leloechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, lihiyot lachem lelohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem emet. At this time in our service, we pray for all of those in our world in need of healing, whether healing of body, mind, or spirit. And in our own community, this Shabbat, that includes, I will tell you in a moment, in our own community, that includes Ern Isles, Jack Berman, Blanca Mancheno Salazar, Laurel Howard, Anna and Martin Rosenbaum, Tony Masters, Tamara Wolf, Dennis Lewis Enright, and Lena Torsch. We hold them in our thoughts and in our prayers for healing on this Shabbat. And if there are others you're thinking of, invite you to whisper their names at this time. And let us know during the week if we have their permission to say their names on our broadcast. Our blessing applies to all. Misha berach avotenu v'imotenu, hu yivarech otam. May the one who blessed our ancestors bring them blessing too, and a refuah shlema, a complete healing. We join in prayer that they may all lie down in peace and rise up to life renewed. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu V'shalom v'hamidenu Malkeinu lechaim Ufos aleinu Sukat Shalom This evening's Amidah, or the evening Amidah rather, is meant to be recited silently, but silence can be uncomfortable online. We wonder the minute things fall silent whether the technology is working, if we've hit the wrong button, if something's gone wrong. But we're going to hold silence tonight, actually, for our Amidah, for precisely 2 minutes and 53 seconds of silence. That was the amount of time that the police officer kept his knee on George Floyd's neck after he stopped responding and lost consciousness. It's going to feel uncomfortable, maybe especially so if you're with other people. So I just encourage you to close your eyes and just sit in place, to think of all the traditional things that we pray for, justice and righteousness and health and prosperity, or to just breathe deeply for these minutes and give thanks for being able to do so. And consider that that alone may be prayer enough for God. Instead of introducing our prayer by asking God to open our lips that we may declare words of praise, we'll ask instead that God open our hearts that we may yearn for justice. From our Siddur: disturb us, Adonai, ruffle us from our complacency, make us dissatisfied with the peace of ignorance, the quietude which arises from a shunning of the horror, the defeat, the bitterness and the poverty, physical and spiritual, of humans. Shock us, Adonai, deny to us the false Shabbat, which gives us the delusions of satisfaction amid a world of war and hatred. Wake us, O God, and shake us from the sweet and sad poignancies rendered by half-forgotten melodies and rubric prayers of yesteryears. Make us know that the border of the sanctuary is not the border of living, and the walls of your temples are not shelters from the winds of truth, justice, and reality. Disturb us, O God, and vex us. Let not your Shabbat be a day of torpor and slumber. Let it be a time to be stirred and spurred to action. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Ose shalom bimromav uyase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Ose shalom bimromav uyase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. May God rain down peace on us and on all the inhabitants of the earth, as together we say, Amen. We have a few announcements this evening from our board member, Tony Abo.
Shabbat Shalom. We invite you to continue with our online Shabbat offerings with our weekly Shabbat morning service led by Rabbi Misha and members of the community on our YouTube channel. If you're interested in joining one of the Shabbat morning services to read Hebrew or English passages from the Siddur, please contact the temple office. Then there is Havdalah, which affords the opportunity to catch up with Rabbi Misha and fellow congregants on a Zoom call. Please see the weekly Hatikva for more details about these offerings. This week we have a special event, Coping with Displacement and Uncertainty, a conversation between Rabbi Nicole and Brendan Scott on Wednesday, the 10th. On Sunday, the 21st, the Hashkafa discussion group will be meeting on Zoom at 3 p.m. and the Boomers Film Group will meet at 5:30 to discuss the film The Lives of Others, which they encourage you to watch in advance. Expression of interest is being solicited for two events on dates to be decided. The first is Reawakening, a documentary and live questions and answers with the producer and the associate rabbi in Charlottesville. And Doing Shabbat Differently. Will COVID change Jewish life as we know it? Join Rabbi Nicole in conversation with colleagues in a series capped off by a response from Rabbi Lawrence Hoffman. Shabbat Shalom.
Thanks, Tony. And just a couple of updates since Tony recorded those announcements. This Wednesday, as Tony mentioned, Brandon Srott is his name, who will be our speaker. He is amazing. He's a psychologist. He's spoken with us before. He's a Jewish leader. He's spoke at our last Pride Shabbat. Really encourage everyone to join us for that this Wednesday night, our Q&A, live Q&A. Also, a few dates to update you with. Our first Doing Synagogue Differently interview is with Cantor Alicia Stillman, who is amazing, and it's just I think a brilliant 35 minutes or so spent with her, after which we can Q&A a little. That's the following Wednesday. And so not this Wednesday, but the next. And then our Reawakening showing of the documentary Reawakening and live Q&A with the producer and with the rabbi of Charlottesville, Virginia, where there was that white supremacist rally and tragic death by car ramming a year or so ago. That's on Sunday, the 12th of July at 10 a.m. We are going to just conclude now with another Aboriginal poem, this one by Kath Walker. Look up, my people, the dawn is breaking. The world is waking to a bright new day, when none defame us, no restriction tame us, nor color shame us, nor sneer dismay. Now brood no more on the years behind you, the hope assigned you, shall the past replace when a juster justice grown wise and stronger, points the bone no longer at a darker race. So long we waited, bound and frustrated, till hate be hated, and caste deposed. Now light shall guide us, no goal denied us, and all doors open that long were closed. See plain the promise, dark freedom lover, night's nearly over, and though long the climb, new rights will greet us, new mateship meet us, and joy complete us in our new dream time. To our fathers' fathers, the pain, the sorrow, to our children's children, the glad tomorrow. Shabbat Shalom.